You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rodrans for Black and White Live. We're going to talk about Cole Beasley. As we know, he's been in the news a lot surrounding the Wuhan vaccination. That's right. Cole Beasley, a Buffalo Bills player, has taken a stand, said he is not going to get vaccinated. Doesn't care if anybody likes it or not. Sam Darnold, Montez Sweat, there are other players that share this sentiment that they're not ready to get this vaccine. Now, whether or not they've done it in the last couple of weeks, since they made comments saying, look, they didn't feel like they knew enough about the vaccine, or the vaccine hadn't been out there long enough for them to want to go take it. Well, it seems the NFL has launched a new rule, and a lot of people are calling it the Cole Beasley rule. Some people are calling it checkmate, Cole Beasley. It's pretty ridiculous. In my opinion, I've said I think employers should stay out of this one issue. The NFL essentially just said, we're not going to require that you get vaccinated, but there's going to be harsh penalties if there is an outbreak, a very harsh penalty. Let's look at this. This is going to be by way of Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Here's more from today's memo, which also says team responsible for a canceled game because of an outbreak among unvaccinated players and staff will be responsible for financial losses and subject to potential discipline from the commissioner. Wow. So if you're unvaccinated and they miss a game, the commissioner can, I guess, suspend you, fine you. I don't know what that means. The league intends to play its entire 272-game schedule over 18 weeks, and this is the key. Quote, we do not anticipate adding a 19th week to accommodate games that cannot be rescheduled within the current 18 weeks of the regular season. Play on time or don't play. Another key competitive aspect of today's memo, vaccinated individuals who test positive and are asymptomatic can return to duty after 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. Unvaccinated individuals still subject to 10-day isolation, mandatory. God. More strong language from the NFL memo. Quote, every club is obligated under the Constitution and bylaws to have its teams ready to play at scheduled time and place. A failure to do so is deemed conduct detrimental. They can hold unvaccinated players as God, that's amazing to me. That's the same kind of thing that they can do to somebody that, for example, has like a domestic violence issue or something like that. Conduct detrimental to the team. That's nuts. There is no right to postpone a game. This is the NFL's strongest step to incentivize vaccinations. You heard that. In essence, vaccination status dictates action. If a club cannot play due to a COVID spike in vaccinated individuals, we will attempt to minimize the competitive and economic burden on both participating teams. Now, let's see. As for justification for continuing to increase benefits for vaccinated players, the NFL cites CDC data and major hospital systems. Now, this is where it really nails them. And the biggest penalty of all for players, if a game is canceled and cannot be rescheduled within the 18-week schedule due to COVID outbreak, neither team's players will receive their weekly paragraph 5 salary. You read that right. Nobody gets paid. Whoa. Okay, so now this has put an emphasis. Teammates are going to start pressuring their other teammates to get vaccinated because they run the risk of potentially losing their salary. And now we got some Buffalo Bill on Buffalo Bill crime going on. Bills receiver Stefon Diggs, not Cole Beasley, this is from Florio, reacts to non-vaccinated player forfeiture rule. After an extended Twitter tirade on Tuesday regarding the NFL's vaccination rules and vaccine generally, Bills receivers Cole Beasley has been silent. After the news of Thursday's memo from the NFL to all teams explaining that an outbreak among non-vaccinated players and or staff that results in a cancellation will trigger a forfeiture, another Bills receiver had something to say. Quote, accountability, availability. Stefon Diggs tweeted, it's always been that simple. Today's memo simply raises the stakes. Beasley may bristle at this, but the simple reality is that vaccinated players will be tested once every 14 days. They will more than likely be available because they won't be tested for 2 weeks after their most recent test. Thus, they can't suddenly become unavailable. Non-vaccinated players assume a daily risk of being immediately unavailable because they're tested every day. God almighty. Beasley has yet to tweet in response to today's memo. However, it's become harder and harder for anybody to ignore vaccination status. Doesn't directly impact a team's competitive interest. After today's memo, it's impossible to make the argument. After today's memo, every unvaccinated player who isn't a franchise quarterback or otherwise untouchable due to skill or cap reasons is at risk of being cut. Wow. So essentially, because an unvaccinated player may present what they deem to be a competitive disadvantage, the team could theoretically, depending on the impact of player and cap, an NFL team could theoretically cut a player if they're unvaccinated because they don't want to run the risk of forfeiting a game. And there you have Stefon Diggs. Make no mistake, Stefon Diggs is taking a shot at Cole Beasley. Accountability, blah, blah, blah. He's coming out and saying, look, man, you choosing to get unvaccinated could affect my money. And that's why Roger Goodell took these steps the way he did. Because now there's going to be pressure from teammates onto players. And look, I don't agree with that. I don't. I mean, personally speaking, because these are world-class athletes in peak condition, and they have found that most people that's affected by this Wuhan virus tend to be people that are obese, have other health problems, etc., etc. These are world-class athletes. Personally speaking, I don't think they should have asked anybody about their vaccination status. And to be clear, if you want to get vaccinated, if you don't, I don't care. But I don't feel like it's my business or the business of the NFL to know that. I mean, should the NFL maybe give the option of, if you want to get vaccinated, you can go to the team doctor and get vaccinated? Sure. But don't require the sumbitch. You see my point? This is going to cause major problems in locker rooms. Because every team is going to have, they said that 14 teams, I believe, have hit 85% of the team is vaccinated. Okay, out of every 100 players, 85 are now vaccinated on 14 teams, by the way. And the roster is roughly 53. The roster is 53, so cut that in half. Look at that. You've got 4, 5, 6 players on every roster, theoretically, that are not vaccinated and are choosing not to get vaccinated. And what happens if we're not talking Cole Beasley, but we're talking Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Sam Darnold in Carolina? That's going to get sticky too, because the teams may choose to handle those players differently. And then what happens? Somebody's going to mess around and get sued over this. If they handle the third wide receiver, and I know this is the way it's always kind of done, different than the star player, but they can prove it's tied to vaccinated, unvaccinated, there's going to be a lawsuit there of some kind. This is going to get interesting. Very interested to see if Cole Beasley comes out and makes a comment about this, or if he starts tagging back at Stefon Diggs, who's obviously taking a shot at him. Actually, he could be taking a shot at Josh Allen too, because Josh Allen has come out and said that he hadn't made a decision. He may have since gotten it. That's been several months ago, but you get the point. Wow. The NFL just said, bitches, you ain't getting paid. Basically. You forfeit a game, nobody gets paid. That's going to put a lot of pressure among teammates. You want to talk about fracturing a locker room? Here you go. So much for team chemistry. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.